is it? No, there it is. Here it is. 7:01. We'll give it another minute or so here, and then we'll get started. Oh, come on, where did I put that? Yep, there it is, 7:02. Click to the right buttons here. All right. What did I say? 7:02. Let's get this meeting started. This is the monthly public online meeting of South Carolina NORML. This is open to everyone. Don't have to be a member to join us. All of our meetings are an environment of education and awareness and are not an open market for the sale, purchase, or distribution of cannabis. We do not encourage or condone illegal behavior of any kind. Welcome to everybody that's on here online with me tonight. Welcome anybody that may be watching on our YouTube channel, and also welcome to anybody that may be viewing it later as a recording on YouTube. Mentioning YouTube, please keep in mind we are not monitoring the comments section on YouTube. So if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can leave them down below in the comments section. We'll visit it in a couple of days, and we'll reply and try and address your questions, comments, and concerns as best as we can. My name is Scott Weldon. I'm the Executive Director of South Carolina NORML. We are the South Carolina chapter of the National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws. And I think I already mentioned this is our monthly meeting. Our agenda is pretty simple tonight. Standard monthly meeting agenda. Pretty much we'll start off by talking a little bit about what's going on in national legislative news. We'll talk about state legislative news. Not much going on there. We'll next talk about chapter business. We'll talk about any committee reports, which actually we won't have this evening, and upcoming events we'll finish up with. All right, let me just kind of dive right in with national. Couple of things that are going on national level, and I will kind of mention to you, I'll drop this link down in chat if you want to stay up to date on what's kind of going on legislatively. Visit NORML's action page. One of the first things we want to talk about tonight on federal priorities is the telling Congress to don't use taxpayer dollars to shut down legalization. Let me just kind of take a quick peek at this one here. Okay, this is basically a budgetary issue, but it's still very powerful. It's not as glamorous as some of the other legislation. We'll quick drop the link into this action alert. Again, in the chat. But what this is doing is telling our federal government that we do not want Congress to allocate funding to basically to fund the Justice Department. We want to restrict the Justice Department from using taxpayer dollars to interfere with state authorized medical cannabis programs. Um, we we've seen some of it in the past, but again, this has been renewed pretty much every year since 2014, I believe. Um, and so what this is really doing is we're letting our legislators know we want this renewed again to not allow taxpayer dollars to try to shut down legal medical cannabis businesses in legalized states. Um, so that link, if you follow that link, you can click on the start writing your legislator, and that will send that action alert out. Um, Next one, as we've talked about in the past couple of weeks, a little bit briefly, is the MORE Act has been reintroduced in the House. It was last December when the Senate version of the MORE Act um, passed in the Senate. The Senate version we'll talk about shortly has not been announced or introduced yet. So this is a House version, pretty much the same as the structure of it was last year on both the House and Senate version. Um, the bill would make important changes to such as facilitating the expungement of low-level federal marijuana convictions and incentivizing state and local governments to take similar actions, creating pathways for ownership opportunities in emerging regulated industry, as well as other sectors of the economy for local and diversely reflected entrepreneurs uh, who have been impacted under prohibition through the Small Business Administration grant eligibility. Uh, Another would be allowing veterans for the first time to obtain medical cannabis recommendations from their VA doctors in states that have established medical cannabis programs. Another is removing the threat of deportation for immigrants accused of minor marijuana infractions or who are gainfully employed in the state legal cannabis industry. Another is providing critical reinvestment grant opportunities to communities that have suffered disproportionate rates of marijuana related enforcement actions. And lastly, respecting basic rights and civil liberties of cannabis consumers under federal law when it comes to public benefits. The bill has been reintroduced and is awaiting action. And while I finish talking about that, I also want to briefly mention, let me go find it here so I'm talking about the right piece of legislation. A little bit earlier this year, and I don't have a date on it offhand. Let me see if I can grab a date. Um, House of Representatives, there is another House bill to deschedule. This is a Republican sponsored bill by Representative David Joyce and Don Young. HR 3105 uh, was introduced back in May 11th, and referred to the Committee on Energy and Commerce, in addition to Committee on Judiciary and Financial Services. Um, and the reason I wanted to bring that one up is because that one is a deschedule bill without all the other social equities built in, shall we say, as are built into the MORE Act. Um, has nothing in there about expungement, has nothing in there about helping to create opportunities in the industry. Um, it's just deschedule. Um, so I wanted to mention that there is another federal House bill out there to deschedule. This is the one that NORML supports, that we are asking to focus our efforts on, and that is the MORE Act. Another thing going on at federal level, and as I just briefly mentioned, um, we are waiting for the Senate to announce um, whatever the name of the decriminalization bill that they're working on was the MORE Act in the Senate last year. This is a democratically sponsored bill by Cory Booker, Ron Wyden, and Majority Leader Chuck Schumer. And because there are now new sponsors in it, it's going to be getting a new name. I still haven't heard any hints of what the new name is yet. Um, but it's one of those we keep expecting to hear something about it any day. I think last Wednesday at our cannabis conversation and the Wednesday before on our cannabis conversation, I probably said something along the lines of probably tomorrow, right after the meeting, they'll announce something, and didn't happen either of those weeks. I'd like to say by the end of this week, but I just don't know. Anything I say as far as introduction date on this bill is a crapshoot at best. So, um, words in the pipeline. It's coming. It's coming. They're, I guess, tweaking things. I don't know. It's coming. Um, so that is the MORE Act, and then the House or the Senate version of the companion type bill to that, whatever the name of it will be. Um, Another priority at the federal level, and we've shared this one out a number of times, but it doesn't hurt to act on it again. Um, and this is an action alert reminding people or asking people to uh, basically tell President Biden to follow through on his commitment to expunge marijuana records. During the campaign, he had said that. He kind of jumped on the bandwagon. I think Kamala got him to sort of jump on the bandwagon there a little bit. And now that the election is passed, both of them have been rather mute on the subject, except for firing some employees for cannabis use. Um, so not real. What's the word I'm looking for? Real representative of what they were talking about in the elections. And so, again, I just dropped it in the chat section down here. If you haven't already, or even if you have, go ahead and hit this action alert. Remind Biden that he said he would follow through with expungements. Come on, keep your word, man. Keep your word, man. All right. I'm going to scroll down this page just a little bit further. Those four were the kind of the top four priorities federally. Other federal priorities, I did mention the Republican bill. Um, I'll mention it again, H.R. 3105, to limit the application of federal laws to the distribution and consumption of marijuana and for purposes. Oh, and for other purposes. Um, HR 3105. So that's the House version. Um, More Act number, in case you want that one, HR 3617. HR 3617. I feel like I'm calling bingo. Uh, All right, let me kind of click back here again and I got too many tabs open on my other screen. All right, other federal priorities. Grow the Cannabis Caucus, the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. I go ahead and hit my Congress people every couple of months with this one. Um, Again, it's an action alert. Tell your representatives to join the Congressional Cannabis Caucus. Uh, uh, we are at one Democratic uh, congressperson in South Carolina now. All of our others are Republicans. I don't think any of the Republicans have signed on to the Cannabis Caucus, and our only Democratic one, Jim Clyburn. I also don't believe Jim has signed on as a member of the Cannabis Caucus. Um, Absolutely, something we should be doing here is hammering our congressional representatives repeatedly with this one. Although it's South Carolina, they'll ignore us. Another thing is legislation to expand veterans' access to medical marijuana. Let me just kind of pop this open, get you a bill number on this. Lovely. This is a basically co-sponsored. It is once again been reintroduced. Uh, the Veterans Medical Marijuana Safe Harbor Act. This is bipartisan. Brian Schatz, Democrat of Hawaii, along with Congressional Cannabis Caucus co-chairs Barbara Lee, who's a Democrat out of California, and David Joyce, who's a Republican out of Ohio. You heard me mention David Joyce's name just a few minutes ago in that as a sponsor of that Republican decriminalization bill. Um, so this is a companion bill, both House and Senate. It is Senate Bill number S1183, House number HR 2588, and it's to expand and facilitate medical cannabis access to military veterans suffering from chronic pain, PTSD, and other serious medical conditions. Um, Instead of giving you all of these different action alerts here in the chat, I'll just sort of remind you to go to that first one that we mentioned, which is I'll drop it in the window again, is the take action page. It is normal.org/act. Um, the federal legislation stuff, the first four that we talked about are at the top of the page. And if you scroll about halfway down, you will find the other federal priorities, which is what we're talking about right now. Um, Third on that list on the other federal priorities is the support of the Safe Banking Act to normalize cannabis commerce. Um, People in legal states have been transporting cash, hiring armored vehicles and things like that to be able to pay their taxes um, because the banks won't allow them access to the banking system. Um, I have seen a lot of support on that legislation for both sides. I didn't go ahead and open up the action alert on it. Um, but again, can't hurt to go and keep pesting our representatives about that one because that legitimizes the industry and by tying it into the nation's banking system. Um, Another federal is cannabis consumption doesn't deny shouldn't deny citizenship. We briefly talked about this as an option in the MORE Act, or as one of the parts of the MORE Act. But just because somebody is caught with a little bit of cannabis, consuming cannabis, should not be a reason to deny them citizenship in the United States. Um, oh, here's one. I've heard a little bit about this one. I'm going to kind of pop it open so I can briefly look at it. And I will drop the link to this one here because I've been hearing some things about it and I just haven't been following it. This is an action alert to tell the USPS to stop consumer vaporizer cartridges to ship consumer vaporizers, cartridges, and batteries, and etc. Recently, the Postal Service determined that recently enacted legislation intended to prevent the distribution of any electronic nicotine delivery systems to people under the age 21 can be broadly applied to restrict all vaporization devices and technologies. Um, I know a lot of folks now. Again, I don't know a lot about Delta 8, but some folks they were saying, that are in states that have Delta 8 or it's supposed to be legal, from my understanding. Um, we're worried because they were shipping Delta 8 cartridges and they got shut down. I know some of them are back up shipping again. Um, I think they're probably rolling the dice again, talking about dice tonight on doing that, but I'm assuming they're working under pretty good advice. Um, Now, yeah, I've been hearing about that. That again, it's just another way to discriminate by stopping shipping cannabis products. Um, Very popular with citizens in South Carolina. The next one is the secure the Second Amendment rights of Americans in legal jurisdictions. Um, should be in all jurisdictions, but there is. Let me see if I get this right. The alcohol, tobacco, and firearms. I think there's regulations that you can't have a firearm if you had illegal drugs, but now they're not illegal in legal states, but they're still threatening people's gun rights. So that's what this legislation is all about. Again, I'll drop this one, especially because it will be popular in South Carolina. And let me just read this real quick. Oh, again, this is another one that is bipartisan. Again, the Senator Sanchez, a Democrat out of Hawaii, along with the co-chairs Barbara Lee, Democrat of California, and David Joyce, Republican of Ohio. Um, did I just click on the wrong one? I didn't. Sorry about that. I was reading the last one. I opened the wrong tab. This is Representative Don Young, Republican out of Arkansas, introduced H.R. 2830, also known as the Gun Rights and Marijuana Act, GRAM, GRAM, um, which is seeking to formally protect the Second Amendment rights of Americans living in states that have legalized marijuana. So let me drop the right link into the chat. Sorry about that, folks. This is the correct link for that bill. Again, HR 2830, that is a House bill. Let me close some tabs so I don't go making that same mistake too many times. I already talked about the Republican bill on marijuana prohibition. So, lastly, on that, other federal priorities support the Marijuana Data Collection Act. People ask me why they can't just legalize it. Bipartisan Marijuana Data Collection Act, MDCA, has been introduced by Senators Bob Menendez, Democrat of New Jersey, and Rand Paul, Republican of Kentucky, and U.S. Representatives Sylvia Garcia, Democrat out of Texas, and Don Young, who is Republican out of Arkansas. The act calls upon the National Academy of Sciences to collect and synthesize relevant data and to generate a formal report to Congress quantifying the impact of statewide marijuana legalizations on matters specific to public health, safety, the economy, and criminal justice, among other issues. The bill overview. This bill requires data collection and study with regard to the impact of state regulated marijuana legalizations on public health, safety, the economy, criminal justice, among other issues. Specifically, this bill requires Secretary of HHS to coordinate with the DOJ, the DOL, and states to the greatest extent possible, and direct the National Academy of Sciences to publish a biannual study on the health, safety, and economic effects of state legalized marijuana programs. The report would also outline best practices for state led data collection as well as recommendations to overcome any barriers preventing data collection and gaps in data. So there we are, folks. That is federal stuff that we're going to kind of give you the overview on tonight. Again, visit that normal.org/act page to find any of those links. I don't think when I drop them in the chat here, they actually show up on the YouTube channel. So again, the folks that are watching on YouTube, Visit normal, NORML.org/act for those action alerts. All right. Geez, I rambled pretty good. We have a lot of stuff kind of moving along federal level, even though we still don't have a Senate version of the MORE Act. Let's move on to state legislative news. No news. Got nothing. Nothing going on South Carolina state level. Um, Biggest news I have, let me see if I can scroll up or down to find out where this thing went. Marijuana Moment did an article. Local marijuana decriminalization efforts launched in Ohio, South Carolina, and West Virginia. And basically, what that article is talking about, let me find the link to share with you again. Is our decriminalization petition efforts. Um, Ohio is doing very well with it. This is telling a little bit about the Sensible Movement Coalition, who I'm assuming they interviewed. I haven't even finished reading it. I just glanced over it. Um, they do mention the South Carolina petitions here in Charleston, Myrtle Beach. Actually, there's nobody even pushing in Myrtle Beach right now. Folly Beach and James Island. I should probably, now that I'm talking about it, at least get a copy of the Myrtle Beach one so we have it on file here, so we can start pushing at Myrtle Beach when we get to that point. Um, I'm kind of just perusing the story real quick. I don't think it mentions us as far as South Carolina NORML at all. But it mentions the efforts, and it mentions South Carolina and our petitions here. So, um, don't know what it's going to do to help us, but it's out there in publication now. Thought I'd share that with you. Um, so at state level, let me just real quick look at what I have in my hand here. Um, until January of 2022, when we hope to have S-150, the South Carolina Compassionate Care Act, the really crappy medical bill here in South Carolina. Um, we hope that is expected to be debated one as a priority, I believe is the terms, or kind of first thing when the legislature reconvenes in January. They reconvene on January 11th. Uh, that's why we've rescheduled our cannabis convocation to the 15th. We hope to have more impact on legislators uh, by holding our event at that time. In the meantime, all we can really do, or all I can hope that we do, is start to get some volunteers to um, start collecting signatures in their communities. Um, Once we have confirmed groups in certain communities ready to collect, I've already started reaching out to National about drafting us new petitions. I may have to, just because I think I'm probably going to be better off going back to Sensible Movement Coalition and having them draft us new ones, or having them teach me how to do it properly. Because although much of it's copy and paste, each one is specific on the sections and subsections of that particular municipality's code of ordinances. Um, just from the three petitions that I have here, each one has different numbering on it. So I'd have to be able to kind of learn how to find that and then um find and replace it on these. And there's not a whole lot of sections. About half of page one on a 7-page document that needs those changes made to it. Um, I'll have to double check, but I don't think there's anything on page 2 and 3. That's like kind of copy paste stuff and all specific to South Carolina. Um, page 4 mentions the municipality name, so we would have to make changes as far as that on page 4, but not a big issue. 5 and 6 are the signature pages, and page 7 um, is the affidavit of circulator, which would need no changes as well. Oh, I fib. It mentions the municipality again at the end of that one. Um, so that would have to be modified on each one. But not a lot of changes, just have to learn how to make the correct changes and reference the proper um, ordinance sections. I know we get asked quite often, when are we going to get petitions for here, there, and the other where? Um, and I'm working on it. I'm working on it. So once we can figure out how to get that taken care of and turned around, um, then we will start trying to organize those areas with greater effort. Like I say, right now we're just sort of asking people to send in and fill in our volunteer sheet. Um, with that kind of info said, let me go back to our agenda. And I think next is, oh, I've got to scroll up to it. Chapter business. There you go. Yes, chapter business. And chapter business, let's see. Um, we were talking. We did have a chat last week about starting to get together and doing in-person events, getting out, doing signature collection, how to do it safely post-pandemic, um, and now it's a matter of just trying to look at the calendar and make some decisions on how we want to get out. In previous years, we didn't get out at all in 2020, mind you, but in previous years, 2018, 2019, we were doing local farmers market type things around, and craft markets around the community of Charleston. Um, some were a push. A matter of fact, there's still one, I believe, it's on a private school property where they have this little Saturday farm market. I think it's a private school, and they have a like a no drugs policy at the school, so they won't even allow us at the farm market on Saturday to advocate. If it was a public school, I might push it, but I don't think it's a public school. Um, Property. I have pushed it with the downtown market in Charleston, and I have to start pushing it again because the last I talked to them was late 2019, early 2020, right before the pandemic hit. And their responses back to us is originally they told us we couldn't, they didn't want to be associated. They Their response to us was they can't allow us to have a booth at that market because if they did, it would look like they agreed or approved of our cause, and they just can't do that. Now that market is run by the city. Um, the city can't make those decisions and make those judgment calls on what is appropriate to speak about as a First Amendment protected activity and what is not. It's that is activism, and redressing your government is perfectly legal. And for them to deny that or decline that is a violation of the Bain Act, which is restricting of civil liberties and civil rights, by restricting civil liberties and civil rights. Um, so the last response I got back when I was kind of pushing back and forth with them on it was um, fill out a new application, but the application wasn't available at that time. And like, well, once we get our regular vendor applications, then that application goes out. And I think by the time they were ready or whatever, like I say, it just never went out that year. I have yet to hear back from them since. And so it's probably a little late this year, although they just officially started again. So I'm going to start pushing again, um, and see if we can get us at least 1 week down there. I don't want to be there every week. It's not conducive to our efforts. to be in the same location week after week. The other things that happened a couple of years back is I would kind of pack up, oh, damn, a little table and petitions and clipboards and banners, and I'd go and set up on the side of a street somewhere and put signs over me like a sandwich board thing. Come sign our petitions. Um, I hate to admit, but I was out there alone more times than not doing that type of thing, and that's where I'm hesitant when people ask me about drafting up petitions, because if there is not a team, and I don't even have a team here in Charleston at the moment, if there is not a team, it's an impossible task, and you get burned out on it. I mean, I went out lots of times. I, I'm reluctant to go out and restart now because of some of my burnout on it from 2 years ago. Um, but we'll get that kind of stuff going. That is what needs to be done. With that in mind, talking about that sort of stuff, I thought I had um, a new volunteer coordinator online on board with us, but I actually just today received some information that that's not going to connect as well as I was hoping to. One of the real big drawbacks that I've had over the past couple of years is I am not an effective um, volunteer coordinator. People quite often, hey, I want to help. How can I volunteer? And I just kind of like, I don't know. Now, mind you, over the years, I've kind of worked up a few things where I've come up with volunteer categories on what people can do to help and how to get involved. And I've tried to get a volunteer coordinator to sort of oversee that kind of program and to respond to people and to place them into proper categories on what they can help with. A good example, one of them was the membership group. Sponsorship is another one. Event coordinator type or event volunteers is another. I think I had five categories. I don't have them in front of me, but um, those were sort of the different. Actually, we were calling them different committees. Sort of assigning these volunteers to these different committees that could then work on these different uh, actions. Problem is, I never was able to find somebody who would take on the responsibility of being the volunteer coordinator. And again, that's just kind of one of the problems with me trying to wear too many hats. I'm not effective enough in all of those different hats, and so things get dropped through the cracks. Um, so, like I said, I heard today that somebody I thought might be able to take that position on has stepped down, saying they just didn't have the time that they were hoping to have to assist on a regular basis. And it is something that needs some regular basis attention, even if it's just participating in our weekly conversation, meetings and direction type thing. But there's a little more to it than that. Second spot there, and I did mention briefly our membership membership committee type thing. Our board now has a new board member. Vaughn Postema has taken on the position of board secretary. And one of the nice things about technology is board secretaries normally meant to keep minutes of board meetings and things like that. But now we use Zoom, and they record everything right there immediately for us and save it to our hard drive and send it out to YouTube for the world to see and all that kind of stuff. So what we've done with the secretary position is added on to it um, basically our membership coordinator position. Or so we're starting to get her up to speed on how to uh, what's the word I'm looking for? We use a system called Action Network, actionnetwork.org, um, and we're able to load our members in there, include them then uh, into our newsletter. Matter of fact, there's a few new members that have joined it earlier this year. I failed to get them in the system. They probably have not been getting our newsletters, and so they should start getting them soon because I've updated that just recently. We're going to then start tagging our new members or all of our members, our ones as they pay their annual dues. And that way, when we are sending out information, we can send it specifically just to members versus sending across to our whole email list. Um, what we're trying to do or looking to do is to improve our member value for folks that support us by becoming annual dues paying members. Um, that might be things like, good example, the convocation in January. It's $10 a ticket. I believe member ticket prices is $2. So it's a pretty significant savings to members. Um, to participate in that event, we're also hoping to do some like other things to give benefit. Example would be a members only discount weekend or something on our web store, or on a specific item. Good example. New shirts are in. Big on the back. It says working to reform marijuana laws. We could possibly put out some sort of special that says, "Hey, members only. You joined us, and as a member, you get a discount on a shirt, on our new shirts, or whatever the case may be." That's again what I'm hoping. Our new secretary Vaughn can help me sort of organize and develop how to draw new members in to gain new support. Also, then how to build member value so that our members that do support us feel included, and feel that we're aware of them, and aware of their support. So that kind of thing. So that to me is big news. We actually, based on our bylaws, currently are supposed to have a four-member board. We can be larger than that, but I'm actually having our board review the most recent update on bylaw suggestions from national, and I believe we're going to be adding a new board position in the near future. We're in those discussions now. Um, Chapter business, chapter business. The only other thing I can really have to say about chapter business is, keep an eye out over the next couple of weeks for some live in person events coming up. Um, ooh. I even got something today. I have to go look at this real quick. Not that one. I get strange messages sometimes through our system, but this one was kind of interesting. Um, and now I'm going to have to go look at it. A theater in Columbia, Trust Us Theater. Okay, why can't I close that? Get on my way. Let me see if I can find out a little bit more about this place. Um, Started in a second floor walk up space that seated 50 in 1985. Kim and Jim Thigpen, Trust Us, has evolved to $500,000 enterprise over the last 3 decades. Anyway, there is a theater, Trust Us Theater in Columbia, and they sent me an email. I haven't followed up on it yet, but they're looking to connect, um, as they're preparing to return to a full season of productions, and they're excited that they will be producing the hit musical Reefer Madness in fall of 2021. A musical, Reefer Madness. I'm assuming this is not showing the movie Reefer Madness, producing the hit musical Reefer Madness. I didn't know it was a musical. Uh, so anyway, I'm going to have to look into this. I'm very, very curious about what this is all about. Satirical send up makes us laugh at the ridiculous ideas posted to American people of propaganda film. Blah blah blah. Okay. Um, they're looking for it. looking for like some sort of production sponsorship, which probably means they're looking for money from us. That's probably a big no because we don't have money, and we any money we do have right now is aiming towards our uh, January event and cover the cost of that location. But I'm going to look into it because if it's something we can do, or at least direct people to their event, I find it interesting. Again, production sponsor, probably not. I think they mentioned a private showing for sponsors, private performance, or it could be used as a fundraiser or, you know, donor sponsor appreciation kind of thing. Um, I'm going to contact them back, but again, it's not something we will probably be able to afford to do without a major fundraiser on our part. But I thought it was interesting. Like I said, I get people reaching out every now and again with some interesting offers. Um, and just the fact that they're doing a musical of Reefer Madness sounds exciting. Last but not least, let me double check my agenda again. Committee reports, as I talked about, we really don't have any committees to be reporting. Um, uh, Real brief rundown. Membership, kind of talked about that. We've got that in the move. Sponsorship. Uh, I have been reworking or trying to rework the sponsorship page on our website. National just kind of had a discussion on sponsorships about a week ago. I have a feeling we may be revamping ours to mm, uh, maybe revamping it. I'm not sure. Right now, I mean, being somebody who's in a background of retail most of my life, I've always believed in like the good, better, best kind of sales presentation, if you will, um, and sometimes adding a fourth, option kind of thing into that. And so, sort of with our sponsorships, I've done, the um, platinum, gold, silver, bronze memberships. I think I have four levels of membership. Trying to spread it out because one thing I learned in retail is not everybody is. I'm not the customer kind of thing. You have to sell to your customer. Um, me, I'm sort of the broke, stingy guy. So I'm usually looking for the cheap package or maybe a little better value package because the cheap packages aren't really the best value. So I'm trying to get good value. Whereas many a times, and I used to get grief about this when I used to sell my wedding photography packages. Um, Top of the line package is one that I would usually price at that like I said, I'd have especially grooms giving me grief. The way you've got this priced up and structured, you can't help but get your top of the line. Yeah, it's like, well, you get the biggest package. I'm giving you the best value, and that's how I really did structure um, my wedding packages. Is you got a better value the bigger packages you got. There's a lot of brides that want to do it on a budget and try and be under X amount of dollars. And can you only come out for 4 hours? Well, what a lot of brides and grooms don't understand is there's only 52 Saturdays in a year. In Pennsylvania, about half of those is cold weather, and you don't want to have a wedding in them. So you're down to about 26 Saturdays in a year to try and make most of your wedding income. Um, a lot fewer weddings happened on Sundays or Fridays, and again Sundays and Fridays. You sometimes would take those shorty weddings to fill in the gaps, but try and do an 8 hour plus wedding on Saturday and an 8 hour plus wedding on Sunday. And when I say 8 hours, that's 8 hours plus on site. Generally, I was 8 to 10 hours on site. That doesn't include prep time and getting home and breaking everything back down, uploading images to hard drives. Anyway, I digress. I ramble. Um, I am looking at redoing our sponsorships because right now the only real differentiator in them is I think the size of the ad that we put on our page for you, and uh, different discount rates on participating in our annual event, which would be like our January type event. Um, I'm trying to think what the other committees were. I really don't have it in the top of my not mind here. Uh, Sponsors, membership, volunteer committee, outreach and education. Ain't got much on outreach and education. And there was one other in there, and I can't think of what it was. Anyway, that's kind of what I got as far as chapter business and committee reports. Upcoming events, as we talked about before, is our final for tonight. Oh, geez, it's almost 7 o'clock, 10 minutes up. Keep an eye out for our January event. It's going to be January 15th, the first Saturday of the legislative session in January. I am in the process now of starting to reach out to nonprofits, other organizations to participate, as well as um, cannabis supporting legislators and or candidates. Um, some of you may be aware that a couple of Democratic candidates for governor have announced. I think three so far, Joe Cunningham being one. And I think in one of our other conversations recently, somebody told me McMaster is not planning to run for reelection, so we may end up with a field of Republican candidates as well. If they're going to support cannabis, we'll invite them to our event, either as a participant and speaker, possibly, or as a guest to come and learn and be educated. Um, that's the only scheduled event that we have right now. We did have a conversation again about live events, and I think our determination really came down to live events are probably not the best option for meetings like our monthly meeting like this or our uh, Wednesday conversations unless we can access a private space and not be interfering with other patrons of a restaurant or establishment, that type of thing. So what we're starting to think about is just a social gathering. Um, no, I haven't heard anything affirmatively about McMaster running or not. So, like I said, we'll keep an eye out on that. Okay, Josh, thanks for joining us. We're just about done here, so see you soon. See you tomorrow. Um, where was I just finishing at? Oh, but any upcoming events that we are planning in the near future are going to be social events, and I'm thinking maybe even a little picnic somewhere. So keep me. I'm sorry. Keep posted to our events page on normalsc.org, or obviously follow our social media at Facebook, uh, Instagram, and Twitter, and we'll keep you posted. Like I say, I'm hoping to get something coming together. I even recently got contacted by somebody who wanted to join our January event. They make hot dogs and have CBD type infused condiments for them. I don't think they're hemp dogs. Um, if they are, even better. They infuse. They basically make the dogs with, I think, like about 35% hemp hearts. Um, and then adding CBD condiments would be kind of cool. They were looking into participating in January, and that won't happen. But if we could do a hemp cannabis food truck rodeo type thing, that would be so much fun. Um, don't know about that. That'd be a big event right now. We're just talking about a get together at a local bar, restaurant type thing, and just sort of hanging out and chit chatting. We'll keep you posted on that stuff. As I see here again, we're running up real close to about 7:55 now. So we're going to call this meeting over for this month. We will be back here again next month. The third Tuesday of every month is our public open meeting of South Carolina NORML. Also, we're here every Wednesday night at 7 for the South Carolina NORML Cannabis Conversation. We will be there tomorrow night with a subject on intro to cannabinoids and the cannabinoid system. Otherwise, don't forget, visit us on our social media. Email us at normalsouthcarolina.org. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's all I got for you tonight, folks. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you right back here next month for our next